This is Marcus Toole, and I am in the back lot of my orchard. These are three plum trees. The one in the foreground is a multi-variety one with Reynolds and Auburn University cherry in it. The Reynolds was late blooming this year and didn't bloom much at all, and is probably not going to make anything. The Auburn University cherry is going to make a pretty good crop. Then there's an Excelsior. This is the hybrid Excelsior, not the Chickasaw one, and it's a hybrid with American plum and Asian plum, and unfortunately it doesn't get enough chilling hours to bloom here properly. It got a lot of chilling. Well, the orchard got more chilling hours than it usually did this year, so it bloomed better than it normally does, but still not enough. There's probably some plums in the top of the tree, and it may produce its best crop ever, but that's not saying much. Then there's next to it is a wild Chickasaw plum, which is an early bloomer and always makes plums, but it's a wild plum tree. It's mostly there for pollination. And then beside it is a Sprite. And then there are two huge pear trees. This one here they're both, I'm pretty sure, are seedlings. And the one I'm sort of pointing at is one that we're calling Winnie. And I've distributed the scion for it to a number of people, so it's a variety now. And then this one we call Granny Durden. Granny Durden's a soft pear, actually pretty good. It's not really that disease resistant. It's kind of, the Winnie always makes a big crop. The thing is, the squirrels destroy them, and it's such a big tree and it's so close to so many other trees, it's impossible to keep the squirrels out of it. So it is what it is, but that's just a perennial problem with pear trees when they get too big, and that tree is too big for me to really do anything about it. This here is my Miss Bessie plum, and this is its first year really blooming in such a way where it's likely to make a big crop. And it seems to be self-fertile. Last year it bloomed a little bit and made a lot of plums for no more flowers than there was on it, and for the fact that it didn't bloom with a wild type because it bloomed so late, and still made some plums, was a good sign that this is going to be productive. Generally, the cultivar Chickasaw plums have to bloom with a wild type. The neighbors are doing some work on their house, so please, the saws are a thing. In here we have some little grafted plums that I did this spring. Most of them are going to be sold. I'm going to keep a couple. One of the ones that, of course, I'm going to keep is this. This is a segundo that's grafted into the root of a Toole's Heirloom. Toole's Heirloom was a rootstock that I had for a Guthrie that I removed from the orchard. This little plum here is a little wild type that I got from northern Mississippi to use for pollination. And then over here I've got some more segundos. I'll keep one of these, and the rest I'll sell. Of course, I don't know which one I'll keep yet. I'll keep the best one. This is a tree that I grafted over to Ruby Sweet, and it was an Odom on a Toole's Heirloom. I didn't really like Guthrie, which is this one over here, just turned out to be not disease resistant enough, and then Odom was plenty disease resistant. It just wasn't very productive, and I didn't really like the plums to begin with, so it is what it is. Over here I have some Ruby Sweet and some Byron Gold that I have, and I'll keep a couple and we'll sell the rest. Over here I have some other plums that are grafted, some Robusto, some Sunny Yellow, and a couple of Ruby Queen, which I will sell. So we go into orchard here. The big tree here is a Sunny's Yellow, and it's a fairly late bloomer. The part of it that bloomed early is going to have a good crop on it. Then it got hit with a lot of really cold weather where there wasn't much bee activity, and then it bloomed late, and the bees actually didn't really get to it until at the end of its bloom. And so the early flowers, if it got a good crop on them, the late flowers, it's too soon to tell. And then sort of the mid flowers in the mid bloom period don't look like they're going to make much, which is no surprise at all. And the late flowers are kind of iffy because it bloomed with Miss Bessie, and Miss Bessie's not really a wild type, so it may require wild type to really do anything. So we'll see. This one here is a flea market, and flea market has a ton of little plums on it. This tree is a very early bloomer, so a lot of years it will get yacked by late frost, and it's probably not a suitable tree for an inland climate or a cooler climate. But I think here it's in anywhere that's along the coast where you don't have a lot of late freezes. I think it will be really good. But it's a really early bloomer, and you got to have a really early pollinizer for it. But wild Chickasaw usually is early enough to work just fine. I have a couple of pink frost grapefruit trees that are going to really bloom for the first time this year, and potentially make a decent crop. I have my citrus, of course, up next to the house where they get a little bit of winter protection. I don't know that they need as much winter protection as I gave them here, but anyway, this is my Golden Boy pear, which I've had to cut way back because of the fire blight issues last year. Boy, I really had to severely butcher this tree, and it did manage to bloom this spring, and I think it's going to try to make a crop. I've sprayed it down with a mixture of liquid copper and a zinc fungicide kind of stuff, and it seems that mixture seems to be holding the fire blight back this year, which is a really good thing. The next to it is the Arctic Frost Satsuma, which made a pretty good crop this past year, but it doesn't look like it's going to make one this coming year. It doesn't look like it's going to bloom very much. Now behind this tree is a Baldwin pear, and the Baldwin pear actually has a big crop on it, and it's going to produce pretty good. I've cut it back, and I'm going to cut it back more this summer, and I'm gonna try to get all the younger pear trees that are in my yard reduced down in size so I can easily protect them from fire blight by cutting the fire blight out of them. So that tree over there is going to be smaller next year than it is this year. This is my Tools Heirloom, and like Sonny's Yellow, it did most of its blooming when the weather was kind of cold and not many bees flying and wet. So I don't know how much pollen, how well it got pollinated. It's a little too soon to tell. This is the Mariana plum, which is a huge tree. Canopy is about 35 foot across from tip to tip. And this tree here has got a good size plum crop on it. If we don't get hit by late frost, it should do pretty good this year. And boy, this tree is a big money maker when it does do well. I have a little Byron Gold plum that I grafted here, and that's in the spot where I want it. So I'm hoping that it does well. It's makes big yellow plums. You know, plums into southeast Georgia have to be real disease resistant, and usually they have to have some Chickasaw plum in their genes, and Byron Gold does. developed by the USDA experiment station in Byron, Georgia, hence the name, for disease resistance. This right here is a Southern King pear. It's got a good crop on it. This will be its biggest crop yet. Well, you know, once again, everything is provided we don't get a late freeze or something. So that's always this is, you know, got a number of pear trees out here, but also this is where my blueberries and huckleberries are located. The huckleberry bushes have a good sized crop on them already. They bloom in January and February, and then the rabbit eye blueberries are blooming now. And you know, if they don't get yacked by lake cold, they produce every year. I mean, both are really reliable producers. Look at all the huckleberries on this huckleberry bush. Truly, I think one of the best fruit for home grow around here to grow. Of course, they're not commercially available. The bushes aren't commercially available. You have to take them out of the wild to grow them. Over here, I have another Chickasaw type, which is this is my mature Ridgeland tree. It's actually pretty young, still kind of small, and it's got a fair crop on it. Not a huge crop this year, but it's fair. And a little ruby sweet plum. It's under right now it's under the shade of this big old loquat tree, but the loquat tree is going to be removed. I'm going to let it produce its crop this year, which will happen in April, and then it's gone. This is my Savannah pear, and then Tennessee pear, which got cut way back. It bloomed some this year, and hopefully it'll make a crop. But all the pear trees are being reduced in size so that I can maintain them, you know, against fire blight. Here's a black ruby plum, which is to my knowledge, the only black plum we can grow around here. And you know, it's another one that was produced by the USDA experiment station in Byron, and the jury is still out on it as to whether or not it's disease resistant or not. The big tree here is another Robusto. This is a Robusto plum, which is got a ton of plums on it, and for sure is a good variety for our area. Back to the Byron Gold. I mean, sorry, this is the Black Ruby, and I noticed the same thing about Ruby Sweet. I was under the impression that these were hybrids that have Chickasaw plum in them, and then someone on Facebook corrected me about that, saying they were actually bred in California using Asian plums. And I looked it up to check them out, and of course, the actual breeding happened in California, and then they were grown out in Georgia. But I couldn't tell from the names, of which were basically numbers, of the strains that they used as parents for these in their breeding program. So I couldn't verify whether they're Asian plums or Chickasaw plums or hybrids or what they were. But when you look at the leaves on these little trees, they're long and skinny, and Asian type plums are more oval. So these plums are hybrids. These plums have Chickasaw in their genes. And so I'm pretty confident of that just by looking at how the trees look morphologically. This is a Whimsy plum. This tree is actually a seedling, but I've started, you know, giving suckers or selling suckers, because it's a pretty good plum tree in its own right, and it seems to be disease resistant enough for our climate. And it produces, the plums are kind of tart, but they're big. And a lot of people around here like tart plums. And so anyway, it's a pretty good variety if you like a tart plum. It's a very early bloomer. It blooms with the flea market plum, and it has a fair amount of fruit on it. I don't know whether it's cross-fertile with the flea market. Being that it's a hybrid, it may be, the pollen on it may not be much good. And here, this little plum here is a Shiro. Now, Shiro is an Asian plum that is typically grown in California. It's one that you wouldn't necessarily think you could grow in the deep South, but I've heard enough anecdotal evidence from people who are growing it in the deep South that I thought I'd try it. And this tree is starting its second year, so it's a little too soon to really know whether it's going to work here or not. But we shall see. And I'll let folks know if it makes it to production without dying from stem canker or leaf skull or something similar. Then it'll be a good tree for here. Okay, so well, this is Marcus Toole in my orchard here in southeast Georgia. It is March 16th, 2024. Thank you very much. Bye.